Right. I'd like to call to order the Urban Renewal Agency meeting Monday, July 15th, 2024. Happy birthday, Mom, at 6 p.m. Today we have Ty Bailey and Marissa Jacobs. Agent Jacobs and Agent Bailey are excused absence. Everybody else is here. Looking for an approval of tonight's agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as written. Mr. Mayor.
Your agent. What was the other agent? What's the other one they're called? Agent Holmes makes a motion to approve tonight's agenda. Any seconds? Second by Agent President Bailey. Miller. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor state by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. You said no public comment online, so we will tonight. This is the spot on the agenda where the public is invited to speak. We don't have any today, so we will move on. We're looking at the consent agenda. Tonight's consent agenda consists of the May 6th, 2024 Urban Renewal Agency meeting minutes and the June 17th, 2024 Urban Renewal Agency meeting minutes. For an approval of the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I move that the commission approve the consent agenda as presented.
Miller makes a motion to approve the consent agenda as written. Any seconds?
I'll second.
Agent Holmes, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor state by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. Tonight we are here to discuss our urban renewal grant process and program. We have a couple applicants. Before we get started in those, I just want to go over the review process. The Urban Renewal Agency will now begin reviewing 3 applications for the SCAPUS Urban Renewal Grant Program. Staff have deemed the applications before us complete, and recommendations for the funding have been made by the Economic Development Committee and staff. We'll begin by allowing each applicant a timed 5-minute presentation on their proposal and its benefits to the SCAPUS community. We are limited to an hour, so we'd like to get through as much as possible and try to get this all done. Hence the 5-minute limit. But then the commissioners will have 5 minutes to ask questions after each applicant's presentation, and you can add things at that point. Later in the meeting, we'll discuss the merits of the applications and ultimately make a decision on the funding each will receive. For now, we are just collecting information. Tonight, we have applications from Casey and Byron Keller of Northwest Mutual LLC, Paul Saracusa of Filoli Investment LLC, and Nick Hurlman of CC Pod LLC. Before we begin the applications presentation, does anyone wish to declare a financial, business, or familial conflict of interest on any of the applications we'll be discussing?
That's for the commissioners, correct? Agents.
Anybody that
Chair, for
Yeah.
example, I'd like to just state on the record, I do work for the lodge part-time as a trivia host. As soon as I was hired, I informed the city manager at the time, Larry, also Isaac, and my immediate supervisor, Lori. Once I was hired, we had Lori process the application from that point forward. And then when Dave became acting city manager, I let him know as well, just to keep this all above board. I declared this conflict on the record to the Economic Development Committee when they reviewed the application. And then I also requested and received an opinion from the Oregon Government Ethics Commission. They came back with an opinion stating that the best thing to do is to disclose it and also follow the instructions of, they call it like the hiring authority. So whoever puts you in your government position, which in this case is the community development director and city manager. So I disclosed it, which I already did. And then, so essentially what we decided is that I'm just here to pass on the EDC's recommendations and then answer any questions about the grant process generally, but staff's recommendation for the lodge will come from Dave.
Yeah, besides just the commissioners. Okay, anyone else? Has anyone had any communications with the applicant related to these projects outside of the Economic Development Committee meetings? Okay, we will now begin with the applicant's presentation. If Casey and Byron Keller would like to start. Come on up. Really, yeah, I don't think anybody's online, but really speak into the microphone so it gets recorded. I will start a timer just to give you an idea. I'm not going to stop you at 5, but it will give you an idea of how much time you have.
Hey, good evening. I'll be doing the presentation tonight. Just for the record, my husband has a hearing deficit, so I'll be doing most of the speaking and answering. You probably have our packet in front of you. So this came about basically, we had we live here part-time and we have the property on the corner of 3rd and Columbia. 3 renters, which will now be a jewelry store, a beauty shop, and real estate agents. We came back to be surprised to see a corner that had been done out in front of our property sidewalk, which was detached from anything on our property and not in sync with our property. So in meeting NJ, and he explained what you were trying to accomplish here. We don't have a big budget, but we thought we'd like to get into the spirit of improving for the area and redo the front concrete and then also attach to the sidewalk to make it look attractive. So that is the quote that you have. I spoke to Wallace Construction this evening, and his 2 concerns, you all have a copy of the bid? Okay, so 2 concerns that I had, or one concern that he had was this bid did not include the hiring of a full flagger group. But with the cones and him having his own flaggers, that's what is included in the quote. If we have to go full flaggers, it'll probably be too expensive for us. But I think it's easily doable there with cones. And also he expressed to me this evening that the original quote was to be done at the same time as his property, which is behind us. Tonight, I guess he hasn't even submitted yet. So tonight in talking to him, he said, no, he could go ahead and do this and he could do it fairly soon. And we wouldn't have to wait since he has not submitted at all. So that was nice. I think it's pretty self-evident there what we're trying to do. It wasn't something that we had planned to do at all, but when that fun little curb out there appeared, it made us pay attention. And I think that by redoing some of our surface in the front is rough and could become a safety issue after a while. So this would be a great opportunity for us to improve that, have a nice big space with the curb tying in with the city, and it would benefit the businesses that rent from us. Any questions?
Thank you.
I have a question.
Okay.
So Dave, who makes the determination on the need for a flagger versus cones on a project like this?
We usually work with the contractors to figure out the less impact to the traffic. That type of work could typically be done from the shoulder, depending on how they're doing it. During the paving operations, or while the concrete truck is out front, they may have to take some additional parking to the west for the truck to stay parallel to traffic. But I think that could be accommodated for the most part. There may be some short term, but that only is directed if the lane needs to be fully closed. So that answers your question. I think for the most part, this could be maintained in just a shoulder closure for most of the construction.
He did mention that he didn't think that this job would take longer than a week as well. So it wouldn't be a long-term project.
What is the time frame on this when we approve to have it finished, completed?
So for grants that are under 15,000, they have 12 months to complete, and then over 15,000 is 24 months.
So we don't think he's going to be ready to do his within the next 6 months to a year to where he can help everybody and do it all at once. But he's okay with doing it.
He's okay with
Separately.
doing it. You know, when I talked to him last, I don't believe he's even gotten to this part where he's, put anything forth. And my concern with him was, well, if we get it approved,
Yeah.
then we don't meet the deadline, because he said he has some spaces in his schedule in the next couple of months where he could just knock it out in about a week. So that's where we decided maybe to move forward. I need to know for our renters, to give them notice so that they're not hanging out there because, I mean, it is their business.
Yes. Commissioner.
I just want to clarify, at that particular price that he has quoted you, just to put that on record.
That's my understanding as of what we talked tonight,
Okay.
that it encompassed all of that except for flaggers. And for us, to be clear, this is a go or no go. What we have in our budget, because we weren't expecting that this, we're happy to participate with the city, but it was a surprise. And so it wasn't in the budget. So we have about 6,000 to work with. If it goes over that, then it's a no-go for us. So I had expressed that to him and he was trying to stay close to that.
We appreciate it. I think we're expecting this to kind of be our downtown core, and I think that would really work well. It would kind of bring the whole area together. I think it
And
would look good.
we're trying to participate with that.
Was
as
that
well.
Dave?
Just for the record, in case you didn't know, this is the same contractor that did the work adjacent to it and in front of the substation for the city. Just so you
With concrete, same match, it should be. Okay. Any more questions? Okay, well, appreciate it. We'll all discuss, and within 40 minutes, you'll probably have some kind of an answer.
Okay, thank you very
Appreciate it.
much.
Thank you. Okay, we got Shadley's Express Lane Espresso, Paul Arcusa.
Evening, my name is Paul Siracusa. I own the property at 33455 Northwest Prairie. Currently, Shadley's Express Lane Espresso is utilizing that space for a drive-up coffee shop. The item that I wish to get this grant for would be to repair the sidewalk. Now, the city engineer has verbally approved a driveway, part sidewalk, part driveway to enter business. I am also using Mitch Wallace's construction company. I think you have the bid there. At the review meeting, I think I have not had a firm answer, but the parking lot portion was deleted, was not required. Under the grant, it was under just general maintenance on my part, which is fine. So anyway, the last three items on that bid are not part of this. There's some items, as the previous people discussed, about traffic control, surveyor, engineering. I don't know what's going to be required. I don't know what total amount of money I'm going to be required to submit. Under your grant proposals, you wish to improve in transportation, which is what we're going to try and do, get people in and out. Promote the emergence of a vibrant town center as a civic and cultural hub. I agree with that completely. Support the growth and retention of local businesses. If people can't get in and out of that area, you know, how can you improve business? Projects of secondary preference, removal of barriers to access for people with disabilities. That sidewalk is a disaster. It needs to be fixed. And with your help, I'm willing to fix it. And it is within the urban growth boundary. And I guess that about covers it. Questions?
Thank you. Nothing on the highway is needing to be done. It's all on the side street.
All on Prairie Street.
You say the state improved that really recently?
No, not recently.
Oh,
but,
okay.
the very front of that was done by the state many years ago whenever they came through.
So any flaggers, anything like that shouldn't be on the highway. They shouldn't have to narrow the highway down to one lane or anything.
No, I don't think so.
Probably
I
not.
don't think so. I personally think it's one of the worst sidewalks in the city,
Well,
and safety is a primary concern for everybody.
a lot of places don't even have sidewalks, but some places, bad ones, are worse than nothing at all. Okay, so just to get this kind of right, the last three numbers, I mean, is the application amount been changed then that we're kind of looking at? Is, so we're looking, the red line is correct. 75 is the project, 75,141.
Right. And just to be clear about that point too, so the elimination of those on-site improvements was a recommendation by the EDC. That still is ultimately the agency's final decision, whether or not to include those. But both the committee and staff's recommendation is that the project be funded up to the 17,000 for the sidewalks.
Okay,
But not the traffic control surveyor. Or-
That would be included, yeah.
Okay.
any more questions? Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you.
We'll discuss these again in a few minutes. Okay, lodge cards, Nick Hurlman. Come on down.
So our application was for improvements to the lodge property, which is owned by CCPOD. You're asking for things to improve the outdoor area space. We have stubbed in spots for outdoor fire pits, outdoor heating under the covered area in the back, and blinds that come down, like weatherproof kind of blinds that will come down on that outdoor space as well. And that'll just improve the longevity, more outdoor time for the community that, that enjoys the space. And those were kind of the things we got to the end of the budget. We had to throw a lot of extra money in since we last saw you guys just to get to the end without those things. So we're asking for some additional funds to make those final improvements to help us through, kind of the late fall and start spring a little early. So in the Economic Development Committee, the music equipment and some of the things related to that, they're not permanent fixtures was determined. So we axed those off. So ours trimmed down as well based on that. And I understand that much more after going through, chatting through that process. But yeah, other than that, it's been a good space so far. The community really enjoys it. We all enjoy it personally too. And I think anything we can do to extend the life of that during the year will be a huge benefit to the community. So that's why we're asking to help go in on that with as far as a grant. So any questions?
Okay, I do have one. Now, do you think the shades will also kind of be used in the summer with the heat like it is? It's going to
Yeah.
provide some shade and cooling.
Yeah.
I mean,
Initially, we thought rain and,
Yeah.
more for the rain and kind of that weird sideways sun probably in the fall. But yeah, the sun, that would help so much too for that.
no, I think the fire pits give a lot of, people would come throughout the winter just for the ambiance and enjoy. I mean, I think that does increase traffic by having those there. And those, you'll probably have room to move those two tables somewhere else to keep the amount of space. If you uncover
Yeah.
those and put a fire pit there, some kind of chairs around the fire pit, I would assume, some seating.
Yeah.
It's been there before.
Once. I don't run their trivia night or anything, but I don't trip, but been there a few times. We'll go down and get the wife. Come on, time to come home.
Yeah, definitely moving those. I mean, we would move those out, and some of the tables are spread out a little bit right now, right? That we probably would end up condensing, a little more in the winter with the shades too. Because there'll be heaters coming down from part of that. It's heaters coming down from that roof.
And I'm sure there was quite a bit of requirements for you with sidewalks and stuff that back when these other places were built probably weren't in code or weren't required. But so you have all the sidewalks and everything that you,
Yeah, we did our half street improvements and then the city did, I mean, the other half kind of too at that time. They pay, for the other half to get repaved at that point. So that was a cheap, I think, while they were out there sort of thing to improve that frontage there too.
Commissioner Holmes?
Yeah, so I think when we redid this grant program, we were also talking about kind of incentivizing energy efficiency and other kind of environmental benefits. So the heaters that you have, are those electric heaters? Have you looked into
Uh,
any energy efficiency options or?
I mean, the fire pits, of course, are gas. I think the it's gas up top too.
Okay.
And as an ex-employee of natural gas, I worked at Northwest Natural,
Good.
it's a cleaner energy than coal, but,
Yeah.
anyway.
More questions?
I do. I see a picture of a stage. So you plan to do entertainment in
Yeah, we've already started, with on Tuesday nights is karaoke. Wednesday night is trivia. Thursday night we do open mic out back of there. And then some of the weekend nights for now, we're going to do it on the space and just roll out a rug, but it kind of takes up some of the use space, but we're doing that on a budget for now, but we are going to have some bands and things too. So there'll be
Well, I think it's a great idea, but I also want to be conscious, and I'm sure you're talking to the city about noise control and how
100%.
affecting the neighbors. So I'm sure you're having that conversation with the.
yeah, so none of our entertainment has gone past, any of our outdoor entertainment that would have the decibels that would go past the limit all of it stops at 9 right now, which is the city limit for any of that kind of stuff. And then if we were ever to do larger things, we would have to apply for some, event permit. Is my understanding at this point. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys.
I just need to
Yeah.
get that out, but thank you.
Yeah.
Great idea.
Okay. Any more questions? All right, thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, Associate Planner NJ Johnson, now with the grant program funding update.
Yeah. So my goal here is just to summarize all of the requests that we just heard, give you a subtotal of what the total requested amount is, what EDC and staff's recommendations are, and then how much would be left in the grant pot after this round of applications, and then what the future looks like for that. So
Jay, may I make a request really quick? Can you just, for the record, for people watching this, just very briefly explain what EDC is and
Yeah.
that process and why they're involved with this?
Yeah. So EDC is the Economic Development Committee of the city. They are a part of the Urban Renewal Grant process by making an initial Q&A interaction with all of these applicants. So they all went through EDC first. And EDC, as was voted on by the Urban Renewal Agency, was confirmed to be a recommendation body. And again, just kind of getting that initial Q&A for information gathering.
And they would go through the criteria when looking at these applications and
Right.
make sure they were meeting all our criteria.
So for Casey and Byron Kettler, their request is $5,500 for an $11,000 project. Their quote includes a $750 right-of-way permit, but the grant program guidelines don't allow for city permits to be reimbursed. So their project stays where it is at $11,000. EDC and staff are recommending approving this request. The EDC brought up that adequate stormwater management be provided for this sidewalk improvement, which would be verified in the field by the Public Works Director and City Engineer. And then for Shadley's Express Lane Espresso, the request is for $37,570.50. And again, sort of similar, this quote includes $6,500 for civil drawings, but the program guidelines don't allow for design work to be reimbursed. So that's what brings their project down from 80,000 something in the original quote that you see in the packet. EDC and staff recommend awarding $17,000 for sidewalk and driveway improvements, but not for the interior lot. The public improvements would add connectivity, access for the site, as was mentioned by customers, and then also aesthetic value that can be seen from the public right-of-way. But the visual improvements to the site would not be significant enough for the cost, is what the EDC determined. And then for the lodge, again, as mentioned previously, I'm not going to provide a staff recommendation for that one, but you can ask Dave any questions on staff's recommendation. The the quote of a $96,416 project includes items that could be easily removed from the building, such as the stage and AV system mainly, which are ineligible because the business was sold. Those things could easily be packed up and moved out of the district. In other words, they're not permanent improvements that the next business tenant would come in and enjoy too. So money spent in the urban renewal district just because of the way it's funded through property taxes in that district. It has to stay in the district by our rules. So that brings their eligible project expenses to $74,196. And so 50% of that is $37,098, which is grant eligible. The EDC recommended fully funding the permanent improvements to the lodge site for the grant award of $37,098. And then, so right now there's $107,292 in the grant fund right now that we have no pending reimbursements. We've only actually had one check be written from the Urban Renewal Grant Program. So the total requested right now is $80,168.50. Staff and EDC's recommendations total the grants awarded to be $59,598, with Casey and Byron Keller being $5,500, Shadley's Express Lane Espresso being $17,000, and the lodge carts being $37,098. And if that 59.8 were awarded, 47,694 would be left in the grant awarding periods, with other opportunities to award grants in this coming November and then March of 2025, since we have these review processes 3 times a year now. I thought you'd want to know, we have 2 semi-active applications that could be ready. One of them is working through a code compliance issue right now with the Community Development Department, so we wouldn't want to pass that up to you while they're still working that out. And then the other one hasn't applied for or been approved through the Planning Department yet. They'll need site development review permits, and the grant program guidelines require that you get all your community development approvals before coming, just because of how things could change easily. So I'll now turn it back to the agents if there are any questions for staff or deliberations amongst yourself.
Being that this is kind of the first one most of us gone through, I want to make sure we do ask any questions.
Do we just need to make a motion?
If we're ready for that, yeah, if there's no additional information or comments. One question I have is making a motion. If we accept the number, are we pretty much stating like, make a motion for $5,500, or can you make a motion up to $6,000 if there's costs that are above and beyond, or do we just stick with the numbers that they have there, or you have?
You could, if you wanted to
flexibility?
do it, now would be the time, because if someone gets approved for, let's just say 5,000 to make it a different example, someone's approved for 5,000 and they come back and their project expenses went way over what they were quoted for and got approval for, we wouldn't give them more than what they were approved for here tonight. So if you wanted to bake in that cushion, now would be the time to do it.
Yes.
I'm sorry, can you come to the,
Just so people online can hear.
I just want a clarification, because in the quote here, what concerned me that was mentioned is what, our 6,000 tops, the drainage permit. I don't know what that's going to cost. It's not in the quote, or is it in the quote and I'm not understanding that? Because it sounds like we will go over, maybe.
Are you talking about the permit, or that stormwater management be provided?
Stormwater management, because that was something that I hadn't heard before, so that brings a question mark, what he was saying. So what are we looking on that? Because that's not it's not mentioned in this.
Yeah. I do, and Dave could speak more to this, but I do know that Chris is going to be working with this applicant a lot for sort of facilitating this project. So that's why civil drawings aren't required for this one. But I don't know how much of a cost storm management would add.
There shouldn't be a need for stormwater management. We've already done the work. When we built the corner there, we've already factored in stormwater. This is kind of a moot point, honestly. We'll
just
just
sounds
work with the
expensive.
contractor to ensure proper drainage, but there isn't anything over and above the normal for this.
Right. And another question is, it's my understanding that we pay for everything up front and then we're reimbursed.
Correct, yeah.
What is the length of time before the reimbursement? If we have to float a loan to pay everything, when can we decide to be reimbursed for the difference?
I honestly don't know the answer to that right away, if one of you know.
I would venture within 30 days of voicing
Okay.
and acceptance of the project. The city will need to ensure that the project was constructed per our standards. Once that's done, just submit an invoice and then pay within 30 days.
And the city will be working with the contractor to make sure it's within standard.
Correct. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'll talk to our finance administrator too. She's issued a check for one of these grants, so I'll just see what that's like and then get back to you.
I do have a clarification. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I think we should stick with what the application comes in as far as the numbers, and if they need additional, I think it should come back. There's a process, and I don't want to say, it can get really wishy-washy as far as the numbers. I think we should just stick with what they applied for.
Like in this case, they're asking for basically half. And they're not I don't know if they're asking for 5,500 or they're just asking for half of the project. And if the project comes in at 12,000, are they asking for half or?
So you'd have to, right now tonight, you'd have to approve a grant amount, like a dollar amount rather than, because again, that's on any project, not just these ones tonight, but expenses could come back way more than we approved of. And then if we're at a point where we're tiptoeing the line of running out of money, don't want to promise more than we have.
Some of these projects are, we're not quite at half, so I get it. What was your point, Commissioner Miller?
Well, it doesn't change anything. I just want to clarify that in regard to the Shadley Express Lane Espresso, that they're not the actual applicant. They're just a tenant on the property. So it's really the business name, just for clarity, because the business information that's on here is Shadley's Express Lane Espresso, but I guess it doesn't really matter. It's just a clarification point for the record. Is it Filoli Investment LLC? That's your, okay. Would you mind coming
Yeah,
up to the
come on
mic,
up.
please?
On Wallace's bid here, he submitted a bid for me in April, and it expired on May 14th. Prices go up 4 or 5% a month, 3, 4, 5, 10, whatever. Here we are in July. I don't know what his timeline is. We're under weather constraints also, pouring concrete. This bid here could be 10, 15% over budget. I don't know what to say or do. I think we all understand costs go up, and
No, I do understand, especially with the first ones, we want to make sure we get this right. If we do vote to approve a certain amount, obviously, if you never go through with the project, the money doesn't get spent. But if you do see a big increase when you go, then is there stipulations, NJ, on that if bids are, because sometimes it takes us months to be able to get in here and talk.
Right.
If they've gone up, is there a stipulation where they can represent or come with an amendment and
They
ask?
could represent. We had that happen with the Healthy Smiles grant. They came back to make an adjustment, but yeah, again, like tonight, we'd need to be talking in terms of dollar value rather than up to 50% of costs.
I ask for a 20% over. And if we don't spend it, we don't spend it. I'm not out to spend your money. If I have to do dollar for dollar, half of that risk is on me also.
Mr. Chairman?
Are we saying that and NJ, can we say especially an amount, instead of an amount, can we say a percentage? If it's a construction project, I understand that construction project can vary, so can we say 20%, up to 20% versus the amount?
Dave, do you have something on that?
I do, Mr. Chair. The one thing to align, I guess, with city policies is we solicit 3 bids. I'm only seeing 1. I don't know that this is the cheapest contractor available. Also, I probably would have encouraged an update to this bid prior to this juncture, just to make sure that this is still a true and accurate number. In our sidewalk program, the way that works is we have the property owners get 3 bids, and then they can use any one of those contractors they want, but the city only pays half of the lowest bid. So again, in this scenario, I don't know that this is the most affordable contractor, so just some food for thought as you're making your decisions.
Do we have in our application process asking for how many bids or anything to that amount?
It's not required right now.
My point here is that
Yeah,
at the junction that they get money, they could go look for somebody different potentially to do the work, somebody who's more readily available or more affordable.
I guess I'm looking at approving it based on the quote we see, and then if it does change, are there ways that we can address those at a later time if quotes go way up?
I
Go
I
ahead.
would like to note that the first applicant, Northwest Mutual, they received their quote from the same company on December 27th, and he's honoring that cost, correct? So yours was well within that window, so I would not anticipate that there was something that has happened that would like drive costs up from what you were quoted in April.
You're referring to me.
Mhm.
It'd be hard for us to guess too, and what, if they're going up and what limit to put on it. We're looking at the information in front of us and award based on that. And then if there is changes or adjustments that need to be made, we can look at them at that time,
Okay, I'm all right with that.
potentially. As we get some of these behind us, we'll see how it goes and how, I mean, like you said, theirs was in December and a lot has changed since then. So, yes.
Thank you.
But I understand, yeah.
Can we state that on the record since she's not?
Yeah, they've received an updated bid today and it was the same as their last quote. But that was just on that one, Northwest Mutual. Doesn't mean it is the same with yours. Might have different things on there, different information, but, do you guys feel comfortable with reviewing the applications and voting on, what we see in front of us?
I do.
I do, and I would just like to note that this, the summary and the exercise has been incredibly helpful, and this was our first time doing it with the EDC, and I think we can chalk this one up into the success bucket. This was, I think, the right way to go about this.
Yeah, because I do, like you said, you have a year now and you could decide to do this in 10 months and by then prices could change too. And so there's a lot of variables, but based on the information in front of us and the quotes, I think we're ready to make an award, at least on this go around.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I move that the commission award the amounts to the applicants presented that the EDC had recommended. That's $5,500 to Northwest Mutual LLC, $17,000 to Pioli Investments LLC, $37,098 to CC Pod LLC.
I have a motion by Commissioner Miller to award $5,500 to Northwest Mutual LLC, $17,000 to Yoli Investment LLC, and $37,098 to CC Pod LLC. Any seconds?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Santiago. Any more discussion, questions? Seeing none, all those in favor state by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you guys very much for this. It's a learning experience for us, so hopefully if there is issues, I personally want to be here to work with you guys and help. We appreciate you guys stepping up and this will help our city. And so hopefully we can work together and make sure this is a mutual benefit to all of us. Appreciate it. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
To revisit at some point the 3 quotes for
Yes,
construction
I
projects
think so
to
too.
kind of mirror what we're doing with the sidewalk project too. I think that'd be a good idea.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Like Dave, I mean,
Good point,
And-
Dave.
they have to submit invoices.
Correct.
And if they come in less, we give less. It's because we're giving up to half.
Right.
Right.
Correct. Yeah, we would give less, not more.
There's also benefit then to go get a lower bid because then they pay less.
Exactly.
Other thing
For
about-
clarity, you didn't adjourn yet, right?
Yeah, we didn't adjourn.
We didn't address it on record. What would we just say?
Thank you, NJ, very much for all that. Good job, Lori and Dave. Appreciate all the help on our first go around.
And thank you, EDC.
Thank you, EDC.
That's very helpful.
Yeah.
Very helpful to go through that. Anything else? Meeting adjourned.